Hello and good afternoon everybody, and welcome back once again for another video of DIY investing. Happy 2020 to everybody. I really hope that this year is extremely profitable for all of us. I'm looking forward to what's happening throughout the cryptocurrency markets. Now I know I haven't been posting nearly as much as I'd like to. It's because I've been working a lot of time and energy towards my course, but that's finished as of January 1st, and now I am ready to start uploading back on YouTube full time. This is something I'm really excited for. I really am passionate about working on YouTube, and I want to be able to give you guys the best analysis that I can every single day. And so today's video, we're going to be diving in, and I'm going to be showing you guys some updated analysis inside of Bitcoin, and then we're going to be wrapping it all up with my Doomsday Scenario with XRP. Now, with the markets kind of just stagnating and mostly going down, especially over the last 2 years, it's really important that we strategize around downside targets as well as our upside targets. Now, for me, I'm a long-term investor inside of cryptocurrency, and specifically XRP, because I do see a lot of profit potential moving forward in this next cycle. Now, with that being said, it's always important that we plan for downside momentum, because sometimes the market's not always going to go exactly in the way that we want it to. So today's video, I'm going to be diving in and sharing with you guys my doomsday scenario for XRP, where I'm going to buy the dip if we in fact fall significantly lower from here, and how you guys should kind of play the market. If you're new and just finding this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and then click the notification bell so that you don't miss any more videos like the one provided for you here. Remember guys, I have a course and Signal, so if you want to get access to that, make sure you message me inside of my Discord server by clicking the invitation link inside of the description of this video, and there you're going to get full access through that. Now on top of that, I also have email that you guys can reach me at, or you can even drop a comment in the YouTube video, and I will send you some links on top of that. Anyways guys, with all that being said, thank you all so much for the support. Let's make 2020 the best year for cryptocurrency yet, so that we can all be sitting here with life-changing profits. Alright guys, let's jump right in the video today. Taking a look first at the charts, we're going to look at Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin is the driver of value inside of the market, and it's really important that we know exactly what's happening with this market so that we know what's going to come with the alts. Now, not much has changed. I like to keep things really simple with my BTC TA, and it's really just the reason is because there's a lot of choppiness that's taking place on this chart, and as long as you analyze key levels and know exactly what direction the market is moving, then that's really all that matters, and you're going to set yourself up for profitability. Now, I was going to make a video last night, but I didn't get around to it in time, and at the time of that video, we were sitting at about right here, at this very bottom of that black line. Now, kind of what I was noticing was at the time I said that we had this small inverse head and shoulder pattern playing out, but we actually invalidated that by selling off for one more leg lower. And now for me, I was watching this final area of support right here at about 7K approximately, and we actually bounced really convincingly from that. Now this is another example of a bullish engulfing candlestick. Now I told you guys a little bit about the bullish engulfing candle right here, and that's whenever you have a big green buy candle that comes in and then dwarfs about 3 or 4 plus other red candles. Now this is roughly the same thing that's taking place right now. Now we have this big bullish engulfing candle, it's eating up 3 or 4 different red candles, and it took place right when we bounced back down to short-term support. And so for me, I'm watching this really closely because I actually expect to see us bounce up a little bit higher. At the very least, I do expect us to kind of come back up and retest inside of this red box. This is my resistance box that I have drawn. Now, my 2 resistance levels were about 78.30, and then I had one here at about 75.60. And I just filled both of those 2 areas with this red box to kind of show where we have major resistance. Now, kind of what I'm seeing right now, on the RSI, we have massive bullish divergence forming, and I talked about this previously. We're having multiple reactions off of this uptrend inside of the RSI momentum. But what's following is declining price on the chart. Now, that's always a clear indication that momentum is shifting towards more of the bullish favor. Now, kind of what I'm expecting to see is we still have this major descending resistance that's held us throughout the entire length of this trend. Now, what I would expect to see is to see a short-term bounce back up a little bit higher, maybe back into this resistance level a little bit, before we actually kind of drop back down for one more low. Now, I don't know if we could break out here. I don't know if we're going to fall to a new low for sure. But what I can say is I'm not going to fight the trend. We have a very clear downtrend inside of this market. And previously, every time we've pumped into resistance, we've rejected. And so I'm not going to be the person that tries to nail the exact bottom because it's really not important to me. I mean, the more that you try and get caught up with making one right trade and nailing the exact bottoms or selling the exact top, the more you're just going to end up missing out on the majority of the run itself. And so I'm not really too worried about this. Right now, all I'm watching for is to see how we're going to react with this resistance level. I'd say at the very least, we come back up, retest roughly the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders, maybe to about 75.30 and potentially all the way up to about 7,800, right around there. And then from that point, if we don't see kind of like an immediate breakout back up towards this descending resistance, then I am expecting us to see further downside. Now, this is kind of my first option here. I think that we could see something along the lines of this, could drop back down, and then we could kind of go in for one more final impulse back down on the way. Now, this is kind of what I'm expecting to see, something along the lines of this. We could also swap these, and maybe we'll have something along the lines of this that takes place, where we bounce back up into this descending resistance only to sell off for one more low. And these are kind of the scenarios that I'm watching for. Now, obviously, if we get a major breakout of this inverse head and shoulder formation, and we actually clear outside of this descending resistance, if we can somehow clear above this descending resistance, and then we can kind of consolidate outside of that, then that's actually going to set us up for further bullish continuation, I think. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out for. Really, this is still a confirmed bear trend until we break out of this major descending resistance. I don't care what way it starts retracing up. As long as we get that break out of the descending resistance, then that's what I'm going to be looking for. That's really the only option at this point to confirm that this bearish trend has reversed. And so that's what I'm going to watch out for inside of Bitcoin. Now, overall, I still have the same downside targets as before, $63, $58, and then $5,300. And so I'm going to continue to watch for this level to get met until we actually break out of this descending resistance. But overall, my analysis has stayed the same. I think that this next impulse and this next leg up is going to take us to at least the all-time high. I think that more likely than not, we'll actually kind of lead above that all-time high, and we could actually start breaking out of that all-time high and then retesting support in just this next leg up. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out for inside of Bitcoin. Now, to kind of draw my Elliott waves, I think it would look something along the lines of this before we kind of continue up in that cycle. Now, I don't know exact time frames or anything like that, but I would assume that we're going to get fairly close. I would assume that we would get fairly close to that halvening. So the halvening takes place at about right here, right at this area. This is where the halvening is going to take place. And so kind of what I'm expecting to see is a little bit of a front running leading up to that halvening. Now, we might go into the halvening and then start to sell off after that. And I think my reasons for thinking that is just because it's kind of the simple analogy of buy the rumor, sell the news, something like that. And I think that's going to be kind of similar with what happened to Litecoin. If you guys remember, we had the halvening taking place inside of Litecoin, prices rallied up, and then after the halvening, it kind of just started retracing. And so I think that we'll see similar kind of upbringing inside of Bitcoin. And so I'm not really too worried about what's taking place right now. I'm just looking to accumulate my long-term bags because Bitcoin at this price is just a steal, to be quite honest. I'm really shocked that we're seeing Bitcoin drop this low. And so I'm not going to squander my opportunity, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to accumulate more BTC. Now, let's actually dive into the real part of this video, which is taking a look at my doomsday scenario inside of XRP. Alright guys, here we are looking at XRP. Now, I want to talk about some things inside of XRP because I don't feel like the majority of people really consider this type of stuff. Now, I know for me, doing a lot more trading, doing a lot more investing, and knowing a lot about technical analysis compared to most, I actually look at the downside targets quite significantly, and I'm always looking for the possibility of us actually falling lower than anybody's expecting us to. And I think that we should all be aware of that. I mean, what kind of comes to mind right now, and what reminds me of XRP, was when Bitcoin was at this 6K support floor. I think that the market structure looks very similar between the two charts. Now, obviously there's differences, but for the most part, this is a very similar upbringing between the two. And so I'm kind of expecting a similar sort of scenario to play out. Now, some things that I want to talk about inside of XRP, you guys know that I'm bullish on XRP in the long term. You guys know and have seen my analysis, and if you haven't seen my analysis, go check out all of my other XRP videos that I have on the channel. But this market cycle that we had back in the years past looks exactly the same as the market cycle that we're having now. There's a few little differences, but overall it's roughly the same, and that's why I'm so bullish on XRP. I also really do believe in the fundamental use case that it has in society and cross-border payments, and they're constantly adding and improving to that. Now, for those reasons, I'm really bullish, but I'm still here watching for downside action because it's still a possible thing to happen. I mean, we have yet to make a higher high. This is still a downtrending market, and so we have to be aware of that when it comes to understanding how low the market can go. Now, some things I want to talk about here. We consolidated at support. Now, this is technically monthly, so I'm going to draw this on the monthly so that we can see kind of how it goes. Now, what we saw was us holding support right here for like a year's time. I believe that that was a year's time frame in which we held support inside of this descending triangle. Now, a lot of analysts will call this something different, but this looks to me like a textbook descending triangle that played out inside of XRP. We had a series of lower highs. We consolidated at this horizontal support floor. What happened after the summer was we sold through that support floor, and then we made two different rejections at resistance. And so this is a confirmed support and resistance flip that just took place right here, and it was a very big one. I mean, this descending triangle is actually a really long one. I mean, from the bottom when we first entered the support until the point in which we sold out of it was 365 days. It was exactly a year's time frame in which we stayed inside of this consolidation pattern. I mean, you could even draw it back up in here, but really it's just this from where we found support. And so, I mean, it can technically be over a year's time frame in which we've been inside of this consolidation pattern. Now, this is a bearish continuation pattern for you guys that don't know how to trade descending triangles. This is a bearish consolidation pattern and a continuation pattern. And this is really what happens right before we experience another prolonged sell-off. Now, what we're also starting to see here inside of XRP is a bearish volume profile. Now, a bearish volume profile is when you're seeing lower lows in price or declining price, which was a clear example of this. Even though we held support at this region, this was very obviously declining price because we had lower highs the whole time in this consolidation pattern. Now, what took place is since about this point right here, we'd started experiencing a pretty steady inclination of volume. Now, that's a bearish signal. Anytime you have declining price and inclining volume, that shows bearish continuation. And not only that, but we had a perfect descending triangle bearish continuation pattern that was playing out. And so when the volume lines up very closely with price, and not only that, but when the two of them line up together to form a pattern, then that to me is a no-brainer that really this trend is going to continue to play out. Now, at the time, I knew as soon as we sold through this support that this thing was going to be bearish for more downside, and I updated you guys even back at 30 cents and told you that. As long as we held support of about 30 cents, then we were good, but we sold through that support floor, and then we got rejected twice. And so we now know without any sort of doubt that this is a bearish continuation setup. Now, whether this is the exact bottom or whether we go a little bit further, I have no idea, and you guys have no idea either. But I'm just talking about kind of my strategy and my plan for if this thing actually starts to drop significantly lower than anybody expected. Now, I'm not in any sort of way trying to tell you guys that I'm major bearish. I'm not sitting here trying to shill you these major downside targets inside of XRP, trying to just create a bunch of fear in the market, because that's not really what I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep everybody aware of the possibilities and outcomes that we can expect to see if in fact this does fall lower. Because at the end of the day, my ultimate job here at DIY Investing is to keep everybody safe with their investments. Now, I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but I like to update you guys with what I'm doing personally because I do know how to profit and trade inside of these markets. And so what I'm seeing currently is a very real scenario where we're still dropping on the downside and we're still waiting to find a bottom. So where the hell am I going to be targeting? Now, you guys already know where my other two targets are, and I've updated you guys significantly with those. I have a target set at 17 cents for buy orders on exchange, and I have a target set for 15 cents on buy orders on an exchange. And so these are going to be my next two entries that I'm expecting to get filled very soon inside of XRP. But I have two additional targets that I'm going to be watching out for in the scenario that we only continue to keep falling and really create one of the biggest shakeouts in all of the altcoin market. Now, my next and third target is going to be at 12 cents, or roughly the very bottom of this wick. Now, if we zoom in here, we can kind of see where I came up with these targets. 17 cents is after we broke out from one of those lows and then came back to retest support. That's where I'm buying at 17 cents. I'm buying at 15 cents because that's roughly the bottom of all the candle body support. And then I have another target set at 12 cents, or about right here. Now, my reason for targeting 12 cents is because we still have this wick all the way down here. Now, when I trade, I usually find entries at candle bodies because it's a little bit stronger support, but it doesn't prevent me from taking entries based off of a wick. Now, at one time, we did sell off to this level, and we've never retested that. And so that's still something that's very possible and can happen. We can very easily hit downwards of about 12 cents inside of this cycle. And that's still just the early support of 2017 before we went into the final blow-off top phase. And so this is kind of what I'm going to be watching for with more downside targets. Now, I actually don't have any real buy orders set at 12 cents or even my next downside target that I have. I have money locked away inside of my Ledger wallet, and I'm actually going to transfer some of that over to an exchange so I have some extra money to accumulate that dip if in fact we do fall to that level. Because something I would kind of expect to see is, now that we've already started selling off this hard, if we're going to dip down to these next levels, I would expect that sell-off would happen pretty quickly. I don't find it any reason why we'd kind of consolidate sideways and then dip down and maybe then start trending up. That just seems a little bit uncustomary of cryptocurrency. What I would expect to see is us to just kind of nuke off the face of the earth like we always do. And so something like that, maybe we'll just start falling straight down. And that's kind of what I would expect to see. I mean, we just had our yearly consolidation and bearish continuation setup, and we're now selling off from that point. And so this is only going to get really parabolic for the bears, in my opinion. There's no reason why it's going to sit here and kind of trend sideways like it already did for so long. This is the part where it just sells straight off and scares everybody. Now, we can tell by the volume how much sell volume is taking place. With this initial sell-off, back down to about 22, 21 cents inside of XRP, we had a massive amount of sell volume that took place. And this is a really good sign. Now, even though we have a very obvious bearish volume profile, this big sell volume is a good sign to have happen when we're retracing back down to support levels. Because during the bottom of capitulation, oftentimes you'll see that sort of a setup where we sell off really strongly down to these lower support levels. A ton of sell volume comes in at given times, and that shows that there's a lot of capitulation taking place. There's a lot of selling going on. Now, for me, I'm a long-term investor in this thing, and so I'm really not too worried about what I'm seeing right now inside of XRP. Now, I was expecting us to start selling off, and that's why I've had my downside targets drawn for so long. But now, I'm showing you guys some updated targets because it's really important that we keep them as an option and a possibility. So let's actually dive into my final downside price target for XRP, which is actually going to take us down here to 6 cents. Now, a lot of you guys might be really stressing about seeing me draw some 6-cent targets, but my reason for that, guys, is just because of the fact this is a possibility that I'm watching for. I don't really expect it to happen, to be quite honest. I don't expect it to happen at all. But I wasn't expecting Bitcoin to go from $3,200 to $14K over the course of a few months. So with that being said, my biggest learning experience of 2019 has been kind of just expect the unexpected. I mean, I really did believe Bitcoin had bottomed at 3,200, and I made a video telling everybody that the bottom was in, but I did not, even to my wildest dreams, expect it to shoot to 14K. And so with this one, I mean, we are in a prolonged sell-off. This accumulated inside of this descending triangle for a year's time frame, and you could even make the argument that it's accumulated for longer than a year. And that's why we really need to be aware of downside action. I mean, this was a bearish continuation setup. Whether you want to believe it, whether you care to believe it, this is a bearish continuation setup, and so we are experiencing the continuation of the bear side. Now, where is that going to bottom? I have no idea, but these are my next downside targets that I'm going to be watching. Now, because I've committed so deeply into XRP, I am willing to watch these investments kind of go down. Even if it means seeing XRP drop all the way to 6 cents, I'm here for the long term, and I do strongly believe that we will see a reversal. Now, with even all of these downside targets, do I think that they're going to get met completely? No, I don't. but I'm always going to make sure that I have the money ready to buy up the opportunity if it presents itself. And that's what you guys need to understand. If you're currently sitting here watching this video getting angry, and you feel yourself getting angry, anxious, all these different emotions, it's because you don't have a sound plan in place, and it's most likely going to cause you to react negatively to this video just because of the fact I told you guys that I'm watching for a downside target. It doesn't mean whether I think we're actually going to hit that or not, but emotional people will get angry at the thought of their investment going down, and the reason for that is because they don't have a good plan in place, they don't really know what they're doing, they're too over leveraged. There's a number of these different things that kind of correlate into giving people this emotional psychology that they just use to project on everybody else around them. And so I just wanted to do my part by keeping you guys safe, keeping you guys updated with all of the possible scenarios that I'm seeing inside of this market. You guys all love XRP, I love XRP, but at the end of the day, we have to be willing and ready to accumulate the opportunity when it gets here, even if that means a significant amount of selling. And I know XRP Army out of the whole community of cryptocurrencies is the strongest. I know that without a doubt in my mind. I've never seen a community so diehard and supportive over their ideas and belief systems. And so for that, I'm really confident in XRP, and I know that you guys that are going to be willing to just accumulate this dip and hold through all of the duration of bear market. I mean, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, have been holding since like the highs of 2017, and even just buying inside of this bear market at bad times and just losing your ass in the investments. And so just understand that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and right now we are just in accumulation mode. So don't get shaken out by what's taking place. Do yourself a favor by buying this dip and really taking charge of all of the great opportunity that's in play at the financial market of cryptocurrency right now. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video. With all that being said, I will catch you in the next update. As always, peace out.